Hi everybody, welcome to video number 15. I'm Mrs. Burke and I will be guiding you through fingerprints and forensics. And who just came rolling in is
Mr. Burke.
And why are you here, Mr. Burke?
Well, not only being an engineer, I was a cop for 6 years in the distant past.
That's right. When I met you, you were a cop.
Yes.
Yes, back in those days. So let's talk about fingerprints. I'll talk about fingerprints from your hands. You want to talk about DNA fingerprints?
Sure.
Are they the same thing?
No,
okay.
Not even close.
All right, what's DNA fingerprint?
So DNA fingerprints are based on genetics, developed in the 80s. It's all about when you leave cells behind, whether that would be hair or a little bit of your skin flakes off, dead skin cells, or even spit. And it takes a long time to do DNA. The whole CSI thing on TV, yeah, it doesn't happen that quick. It takes a long time to do DNA matching. But every cell has your DNA, so it's a really good way of finding people or finding information. And hair, for example, doesn't really go away. So you can find hair later and you can do DNA testing much later on.
Good point, good point. So the fingerprints that we're going to be talking about are actually the ones that are on your hands. And everybody has unique fingerprints. There are no two fingers that have identical fingerprints. So both Mr. Burke and I have two very different kind of fingerprints, and you guys will have a chance to take your own this week. So let's give them some history on fingerprints. All right, I'll do the really old one here. So back in 100 AD, there actually was a Roman attorney, and that's why I'm showing you my little Roman warriors there, who used a bloody palm print from the crime scene to help prove that somebody was guilty.
In 1686, in Italy, fingerprints described by a professor of anatomy.
Yep, so it was the first time that they were actually described having different kinds of characteristics. And then the last one we've got here is in 1880, Japan used fingerprints for the first time to clear somebody who was innocent and actually identify the guy that was culprit and the burglar. So let's talk about more modern history here. You want to do the first one? You want to do it?
Sure. In 1896, Sir Edward Henry published a classification in uses for fingerprints for Scotland Yard.
That's right, and I have a very modern picture of Scotland Yard here for you. In 1901, the United States was the first official use of fingerprints in New York City.
And in 1930, the FBI sets up a national fingerprint file in the U.S.
Did you ever use the FBI for fingerprints or anything?
We'd send a lot to them, but I didn't interact directly with them.
All right. So the fingerprints that you have don't stay the same. I mean, well, let's try that again. They stay the same for your entire life, meaning no matter how old or young you are, they are the wow.
Yes, fingerprints don't change. It's critical that your fingerprints identify you for your whole life.
That's right. Thank you. Sorry, I got tripped up there. So let's talk about latent prints. Latent prints are kind of considered hidden, right?
Yeah, it's fingerprints you leave behind, and really it's based on the grease in your fingers. So if you touch glass, that grease stays behind. It's the easiest way to think about latent prints. But paper, even not necessarily from grease, paper is a great place to get fingerprints from. That's
right. So when you were looking for fingerprints on the job, did you actually dust for fingerprints?
Yes.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we had a little brush thing, and it's got a little squeeze bobber in the back, and it sprays this stuff, and you dust around, and you can basically blow off the residue, and what's left behind sticks and creates things like the latent print you see here. Another thing you can do is you can do that with cocoa powder.
Very cool. That's right. We did that once.
Yes.
Remind me, guys. I'll show you how to do that. Mr. Burke taught me how to do that. So we were talking right here about matching prints and how you were looking for similarities, and most of them want to do 8 points of matching. Did you ever look for 8 points of matching? You said you sent that out.
Yeah, we sent that out.
Okay. Let's talk about aphids. If you guys...
Which would be why we sent that out.
That's right. Aphids, if you guys watch NCIS, you probably hear this a lot. Abby, the character, refers to this. And it is the automated fingerprint and identification system. And they're computers to help you scan and identify prints. Did you ever type some in?
No, we never typed any in. We just sent prints out that we needed to have identified.
And FBI introduced aphids in 1977, which is, really old when I was born. So let's talk about anatomy of fingerprints. You want to do that?
Sure. Your hand has all sorts of little ridges and valleys, and those ridges and valleys, and if you look at your finger, you can see them. That's what identifies your print.
Very good. And when you have that print, when you touch something, what happens is actually sweat and oils, like Mr. Burke had told you before, it actually gets transferred to the surface, and you'll leave behind something that looks like this.
And as it turns out, it works out to be a sticky residue.
Right.
So what you're seeing here is that somebody has illuminated the invisible prints. You don't see them, you don't know they're there, but you've left a sticky residue behind that leaves a trace of yourself.
Yeah, cool. So when you, and you guys will do this week in class for me as well, we're actually going to classify our own fingerprints, and we're going to do that according to what's called ridge patterns, and those are the ones that you see here. There are loops, and that's exactly what it sounds like. It goes whoop, a loop, and a whirl, and then an arch.
Yep, absolutely.
So this is actually, did you know this? This is the general population percent of just in general here on Earth. 65% of people tend to have more loops than anything else, and then 35% have whirls, and 5% have arches. Did you ever have yours on, Doug?
Oh, absolutely, and we had a chart on the wall.
Oh, you did? Oh, you did? So it was in the police station? Oh, how cool. All right, well, here we go. I hope you've enjoyed the video for today's summary time, guys. So make sure you're doing your 5 sentences, please. Make sure that you're not using those personal pronouns. By the way, do you ever use personal pronouns when you were doing formal writing in your career?
Nope. No. Personal pronouns in scientific writing aren't really allowed. So you find ways of getting rid of the I's and we's.
Yep.
And even sometimes people try to sneak in a this researcher, but those aren't really good either. You try to get yourself personally uninvolved and just talk about the facts.
That's right. We just want the facts, right to it, right? All right. Thanks for watching, guys.